All right. So I'll start. I think if you're looking at beginning any kind of a ministry, whether it's just you personally talking to someone or whether it's starting a group at your church, I think it's important to remember that it starts with the pulpit. If you're going to have a kind of church culture where people will come to this thing and will seek help from it, it really needs to start from the pulpit. And Resilient Ministry started with a 9-week sermon series about addiction. And we've periodically done sermon series about addiction and mental health since then. Pastor Dan said yesterday, was it 20%, 25% increase in attendance during times that we've spoken about addiction and substance abuse. I think it's important for pastors to be honest about something that they struggle with. And I know that's scary for pastors. We put them up on a pedestal. We don't want to hear that they're weak, but actually we do. We do want to hear that they're human, and how are they dealing with the things they're dealing with, and the encouragement that they can give us. So I would say that would be number one. It starts with the pulpit. If you're a pastor, you probably do pastoral counseling. Having something like this at your church can relieve you of a burden, because 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 people that need counseling can get group counseling, essentially, now at your church through this kind of peer-led support meeting. And 95% of our referrals come from someone coming to the pastor first with an issue that they have and asking for help, and the pastor making a warm handoff. So those would be 2 of my recommendations, is make sure that you really have the buy-in of your pastor if you're going to do something like this. Our pastors talk about it frequently from the pulpit. They'll use it as sermon illustrations. They'll say, last Saturday at Resilient, we were talking about this, that, and the other. So it's constantly getting out there. There's a bit of a hurdle for some people to come to a group the first time. I've heard if you want to sell something, you have to have 9 touches, an advertisement and a phone call and a whatever. It's probably a little bit more to get someone to come to your recovery group. So each one of those times that it's mentioned from the pulpit is a touch. So that would be my recommendation when starting something like this.
I'd have to echo a lot of what you just said, and thank you for bringing it up too, because I'm thinking there's another church in town that has been starting to talk to me about getting a group going, and it's a church where we tried before, couldn't get any traction, and that idea of the buy-in from the pulpit, the touches from the pulpit, really important. I have a group that I'm involved with, a recovery group at my church every Friday, and there they came to us basically. I had been kind of the de facto chaplain for Milwaukee County's residential treatment program. They had an inpatient program at the time, and I would have counseling sessions with people. We had them in Bible study groups I was able to hold after hours. And after the 28 days were done, I'd be going, goodbye, and I'll pray for you, and try to find a church. And thought, got to do something more than that. And I know for a lot of people, the idea of just jumping from being an active user with no church connection to just walking into a church and sitting, that's a quantum leap. So we wanted to have some kind of transition, some place where people could come in and talk with people who got it and have Bible studies, whatever it took. We were going to rent a storefront, and the pastor of the church where we are now holding it, he approached us and said, please bring your group to our church. How are you going to turn that down? It turned out to be a very good thing. The location of this church, this is Milwaukee, okay, the most segregated city in America. We realize if you hold this in a suburban church, the black people from the ghetto are not going to come. hold it in a church in the inner city, white people from the burbs aren't going to come. East side of Milwaukee, neutral territory, all was well. And it worked. We were close to a bus line. Had just a lot of drop-ins. It worked well, and I think that buy-in from the pastor, that he was supported, he wanted it, and there was some pushback from the church, some people in the church, but they pretty much got past it. The president of the congregation now is a guy who came into the church through our program, through Grace Oasis is what we call it. So it can be done, but boy, thanks for that reminder. I also have started some groups in prison. We've got several of them going now. This again, they came to us, so I'm not sure what to tell you about going and starting one on your own. But prison approached us and said, we want a faith-based recovery group. Can you help us out? And it's like, yeah, please. That's my jam. So been doing that for, oh gracious, when did it start? I think it was in '96 we started our church at the group our group at the church, and let's see, '01 I started at the prison, and can't say enough good about it. Encourage you, if you're thinking about it, pursue it. If you want.
Hi, I'm Faith. I ran a group at my church, and then I did another church. So I had Monday night at one church, Tuesday night at another church, and then we had the retreat last time, and there was a bunch of us who all connected here, so then I turned it into a virtual group. So I will say there's positives and negatives to a virtual group. One negative, I'll do the negatives first, is there's no hugs. You don't have that, if somebody's crying, that you can reach out and touch them on their shoulder just to say you're there. So you don't have the personal approach per se. On the flip side, we use a lot of us do follow up with each other. So like if somebody's really emotional one day, we exchange phone numbers, and somebody usually will follow up with a phone call or a text. So it's more technology, interpersonal, but it is there to a point. You only see the little box of the Zoom picture, so it gets a little frustrating because a person in Florida may start talking and a person in California may start talking, and technology isn't instantaneous, so then they're talking over each other until they figure out one of them is talking and then the other one stops. So that's another little glitch. And then there's always the glitch of me, who is not technology intelligent. So I have a lot of technology glitches, but they are so patient with me. I will say for me, I get bored with the same thing, and my group is very patient and puts up with my constant changing things. I think we do Resilient quite a bit. The other choice we do is this book. It's a Christian 12-step program, and I've had a pastor go through it, and there's little tiny things. So I have actually his version of if there's any false theology in this book. So if anybody would decide to use this book, I have all that background stuff done. And like I said, it's minute. But he also pointed out, this part, we really need to put the confession in there because it just lends itself to that. So I have all that from a pastor. But this is a 12-step, it's like a Christian 12-step program with a workbook. Would that be about the right way?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a good way.
Then, as you can see, I have Skit Guys shirt on. I love the Skit Guys. They do CR, so for anybody who does CR, you know the Skit Guys. I'll take the easy one.
Celebrate recovery.
Oh, sorry. Okay, they have a video and a 7-day devotional, which I kind of turned this into 3 meetings, on the Serenity Prayer. And it brings out so much more to the Serenity Prayer. So you start saying it in a whole different way. Then there's this one. If you ever plan this video, you can get it for free on YouTube or Skit Guys, or you can buy the video. If you see it on YouTube, it's small. You can't get it much bigger than this. This one is painful. Our group has decided we're only doing this once a year because it's called God's Chisel for a reason. I'll cry on this one. You literally ask God to chisel out. The first day we did this, Jason was on. We had, 9 people on that call? And I got 9 emails saying, that was awesome, in capital letters. Of course, they skipped out before the pain came. The week where you literally write down what you want God to take out, to chisel out of you. The next week we came back and all of us had out of this world things that happened to us to make sure that we chiseled it out. So caveat on this, once a year, otherwise it's a little too painful. But that is awesome. And then the other thing I do is institutional ministries.
That's my baby.
They have all kinds of little Bible studies to do for groups. So like I just printed off 3. One is Jesus Speaks from the Cross. What is he saying to me about my recovery and my new life? Jesus is the answer for shame. And then the first step, we admit we were powerless to deny our feelings. So there's hundreds.
There's for the recovery studies. There's 80 some right now.
Okay. So, and these are free. You just print them off, and they're good discussions.
There's a lot of those are some that I just came up with them over the years, and they all went on the website. And some are user friendly. Some are people have said this study Phil has to be there presenting it, otherwise it doesn't work. So I'm working on getting some revisions of those, which I finished them. We just got to get them up and running online. And teacher's guides. That was something we'd never had before. So there'll be facilitators guides available. Watch for that on, let's see, iam.life. That's our website. Jesus said, I am the life. And that's our website. I am for institutional ministries .life. Not .com, not .org. .life. I am the life. There. Now you'll never forget it even if you want to.
Okay, question?
Was it the letters I am? Or
Correct, yes, for institutional ministries.
life.
Yes,
L-I-F-E.
life. Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go. Good question.
So that's pretty much what we do for our group. I will say the people in Utah, I tend to get them together, and we just had 2 Saturdays ago, we actually were able to take a couple videos from the last retreat, and we went through them, which was really good. So my people that I can get together, I try to get together with them at least once a year. But that's me, because I like to have people around. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Cynthia, and I was privileged 1.5 years ago to come to this with my pastor and 2 other people from my congregation. And so those of you that came as a handful from your congregation, either with or without your pastor, man, praise God, because Faith and I pray once a month for Lutheran Recovery Ministries. That's a commercial, by the way. We invite you to join us. And one of the things we prayed for was that this year we would have pastors here, because when pastors see the brokenness of the people in this room, they get it, and they understand that they've got people that are desperate for the Lord. And so, again, God blessed me with my pastor coming last year, and two other members. I'm in the Al-Anon camp. I have a son that is a recovering opiate heroin addict. And then we also had an addict come with us from the church. And so, I just prayed a lot, and I had a pastor that said to me, Cynthia, if you have the energy and the passion, I am not going to stand in your way, and let's just go for it. Let's do it. And those of you that are kind of type A personalities are kind of brought up to be the A student, which was me. I kept thinking, well, look at Resilient. You know, they've got a worship team, and they've got enough people to have men and women and addicts and codependents, and you know, we just don't have that. And I kind of wrestled with that for a while.
It's
and
interesting because we don't have all of that.
Well, it seems like you do. You have a lot of it, Jason. You have a lot of it. And maybe that was me making it up in my head. You know, this is what it needs to be like. This is what it needs to look like, because who knows? You know, we make a lot of things up in our heads. But when it came right down to it, and I knew, I just went forward. I put a proposal together. I, having been brought up and found most of my relief and help in the rooms of Al-Anon, even though I had a very strong Christian background, my relief came in the rooms of Al-Anon. And like you, Erica, my heart was broken that my church didn't have this for hurting people. But anyway, long story short, when it came to it, I just put it out there. I said, let's have a 1-hour meeting. Let's just put everybody in there, the addicts and the codependents, men and women. Those that have lost a spouse are there, and they're in grief. I have a person in there that's suffering from a very dysfunctional family. I mean, we just have a whole mixed bag, and it's working. And I didn't know what to start with. I looked at the Resilient book, and it seemed too complicated to me. And I had been brought up with the 12 steps, so to speak. So when Faith, at the retreat, because I was like, Lord, what will I use, you know? She had this book. I grabbed it, bought a copy, and God used it. And then since then, I switched to this book. And I think this is a great starter book for a group. It's very simple, and it gets right to the 12 steps. And I believe the 12 steps are a lifestyle of teaching you how to lean into your Lord and how to have very healthy conversations after taking the plank out of your own eye. So that's the 12 step. This book, I should buy stock in this company, you know. I can't say enough good things about this. And right now we're using this, and we do about a chapter a week, and we talk about it. And we start off by reading the 12 steps and the scriptures that go with that, and some opening statements about good meeting etiquette, I think you might say. And mine's very, very simple. We start at 4 p.m., we end at 4 p.m., then we go to worship service, and we're in worship service by 5:30, those that want to go. Right now we have 2 people attending that are not members of a WELS church body. They've come along somehow. God has given them to us, and so we are happy to have them. I have 2 people attending via Zoom. My son, who is a pastor, had a member at his church that had a need, and he connected us, and now she's joining our group. Sheena, did you want to say something? Okay. And God worked it all out. I think that's the main thing I want to say, is I had a lot of, I'm an engineer, and I had a lot of concern about how to manage all this and how to cross the T's and dot the I's. I do project planning for hazardous waste permits. And so I just, had a desire to make all the pieces fit together, and God just had a totally different plan. And he just said, go for it. You know, my people need some loving, and they need some connection. And guys, some days I think, I don't have time for this. You know, I'm already spent and I'm tired. But then when I get into the lesson for the week, I say, oh, Lord. Oh, the other thing I ask myself is, am I helping anybody? Is this group helping anybody? I have a co-facilitator too. Is this group helping anybody? And then I go and I said, this group is helping me. I need to be here for me. And then I did take a time out around November and December, and I kind of individually asked the group members, is this helping you in any way? And when I heard the answers, it was like the Holy Spirit said, I'm at work in these people's lives. It's not me, it's not the book, it's the Word of God, and it's the opportunity for people to be real and to connect. And so just don't have any preconceived ideas. Just put a little structure to it and have the conversation, and it'll happen.
Cool. So any questions?
I just, in hearing all of this, thank you guys for doing this. And just listening to you, it sounds like these ministries are not just a great in-reach tool, but an outreach tool as well. Because like you said, you get people from outside that aren't wells, that it can be a way of outreach as well. But what you were saying, Phil, is that when you started a ministry, you said you got some pushback from the congregation. Can you tell me more of like what that was like and how do you navigate that? Because I kind of anticipate that.
Okay. Couple of things we were able to deal with right on the spot. We were able to get locks installed on doors. That was something that hadn't been there before, and that set a lot of people's minds at ease. That certain rooms here, you're open to go, welcome to go into these. Others, not tonight. So minimized a lot of concerns right there. Just a few security things. Some of the pushback, and I don't know what to do about it. It's like, do we want those people in our clean premises? And that's just wrong. And yeah, that's a pastoral thing. Y'all need to repent, and nothing we can do about that. Not much, I don't think. Beyond that, those are the biggest things, I think. The security thing, fairly easily dealt with. The heart thing, that's a little more difficult to deal with. Yeah.
I guess responding to both, going back to what Jason started with, which is the idea that like getting the church to be more recovery minded, a congregation to be, it starts in the pulpit. And I'm just realizing at this retreat, big dummy I am, how very clean my applications and illustrations have always been in sermons and Bible studies. And I think I need to dirty up the church.
Come on.
Yes!
We got another bumper sticker. Let's do.
I think another response we have is some of those people are our people.
Amen.
Come on.
Absolutely.
Right. Yes.
Some of them are our pastors.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
And I just want to tag on to your comment, and that's because I'm the Al-Anon, the codependent. We put a lot of focus on the addicts, but don't forget that an addict has all that wreckage, and that wreckage impacts many people. So when you say we have X percent of addicts or alcoholics in our congregation, you multiply that at least by 3. And they're out there. So it's many more people than you think. Yes?
Coming from a Wells congregation, I know a lot of times we're told that women can't be leaders.
She laughed.
The majority of people that come to our Bible study are women.
Yeah. Sorry, if you could stop speaking right now. I'm feeling a little lead. And,
So I think that's one of the areas we need to kind of.
I see that someone behind you is they're in pain right now, trying to respond. So I want to put him out of his misery and allow him to respond.
Let me put that false to rest. I'm in the staff ministry program, and I am one of maybe 5 males out of 14 people in the program. It's staff ministry is one of those areas where we're putting women into positions where they can use their gifts besides just teaching. And so there is a place in the Wells churches to use women and use their gifts to their fullest. It may not be in a pulpit, but it's certainly in a group leading women, doing Bible studies, doing these things where you're not in that traditional teacher role. please come see me. I have direct access to the person who's got the website that will send you any and all information you want on the program. If you're thinking about doing ministry but don't want to do it as a teacher, ladies, there's an option. Thank you.
I just wonder if there's any other, because that is an issue that comes up. I've seen it come up in our group as well. Any other pastors that want to comment on that, or guidelines or thoughts about that? Or you don't want to comment? Just real quick, I've learned through some trainings that after I ask a question, I have to wait 4 seconds to see if anybody's going to respond to it. So any pastors want to address that?
Would you repeat the question, please?
Just issues about women teaching, women leading, women praying. Garrett?
I wish I had explored this more, but I can at least say this, if you start the conversation. There is a distinction between leadership and headship. And the Bible gives headship to men, but it calls on all Christians to lead. And so let's explore that, but also remember that we have the backstop of headship. And so we're going to work hard not to violate that, but at the same time, we're going to explore all the way to it.
That's interesting. I would say I'm in a similar position as a layperson, that I lead the group. But if Dan has, if he wants, and he has corrected me on things and made sure that we have that stopgap there as well. So I saw a hand up over here as well.
Well, as president of the congregation, I've encouraged the woman's voice to be heard in our congregation. I call her Christian family. Without woman, man probably wouldn't survive. Because a woman is certainly a mother to man and certainly a supporter to man. And I always remind our voting members, the men of our church, that you have to go home with that woman. So the decisions you make, I hope, is a consensus between you and your love for God and your family and what is right to do. And in our church, RCA is here. Nancy, we have women's Bible classes, we have women's outreach. They're very active. Most of our teachers in school are women. And they should certainly be encouraged. They have a voice, and they are people of God too. So why not?
Yeah. Amen. Brenda, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a quick story. When we went to, Jimmy first introduced PR to us, and we went to West Coast Summit. We came back, and then we didn't go for a couple of months now and then, but then we show up the after-school program we do. But then Friday night we started going to the women's where they gather and share testimony and whatnot. So we went there, and later on we see them on Friday nights, and then me and my sister were like, I wonder what else can we do besides just talking about it, because there's a lot of hurt going on here. So one day I asked them, hey, you guys want to get together and play kickball or just go maybe go play volleyball? And they said, sure. And one of the ladies and one of the men told us that after this CR meeting, we don't have anything else to do, or there's just no hope, or there's not much for us. And so we got that information, then we went with to play volleyball, and we had hot classes then we played soccer. Then our pastor joined us too, and that was really extra special for us. And we played kickball, the adults were having fun. And then we wanted to go to the next level, and we asked our Eastern church if they can give us the gym, but there was a lot of stuff that they want. We're concerned about, especially the security and the cleanliness of the gym. So then they gave us the multiple purpose room, and so we started doing Zumba there. And then my daughter, older daughter, who's recovers but she falls out, she was there joining us. And
Good.
She had so much fun. So we need to keep those groups going again. So we're still going back again, trying to restart that.
Yeah, that goes to something we talked about yesterday with just the church. You can have a recovery group. You can go to a secular 12-step group. Your pastor is preaching to you. Then there's fellowship, and maybe there's somebody at your church that can hire people that have a felony. The whole church can come together to meet the needs of this multifaceted disease. I think that's a great example of it just kind of snowballing into other activities, and by listening to people, what else can we do to support you? That's awesome.
Kind of along those lines, one of the things that we hadn't planned on at my church originally, at least, but it happened, was serving food, not just snacks, but a meal. That's something I didn't think of. I still don't think. I don't cook. I don't know. I'm grateful for everybody who does cook. Just not in my mind. Somebody came up with that idea. They realized we have a lot of people coming to our group who are low income, no income, homeless, to provide them with an actual nourishing meal. Can we do that, Pastor Phil? And if you want to, go for it.
Jesus fed some people.
You did, yeah. So that's been part of this ever since that, and it serves another need. It's not just I'm receiving data about God, but I'm being taken care of at a physical level too. That has made a difference.
Right behind you, Danny. Roger had his hand up for quite a bit.
Yeah, I'd like to reinforce your thought about how many people are affected. I think I'm going to be okay, but there's 20 others around me that need help as well.
Mm-hmm.
And switch subjects real quick. I'm with the crosswalk with Jason, and one of my privileges is fired 3 guys out of there for our construction business.
Yeah,
All of them success stories so far.
that's awesome.
Praise God.
Wow.
I can touch them every day.
Yep. Yeah, and comments about attrition, right? They might come to the group during a critical period, but they have ongoing needs beyond that, and one of them is employment. And churches are great at that.
One more thing on that. I'll ask Pastor Dan to comment. I was bragging about one of your sermons again, Dan.
And just to be clear, you are not paid for that. Correct?
Well, no money has changed. I'll just say.
Spontaneous customer testimony.
So Dan in one of his sermons last summer talked about, and it's was one of my wake-up calls, was that 80% of the people in this room, and there's a room of about 250, 300 people, are affected by alcoholism. And I'm wondering where you come up with that statistics, or if you're just blowing smoke.
Oh, that's the thing about it. It is that 90% of statistics are made up on the spot.
Yeah. But ching.
No, but and that's one of the things I put in. If you do any research, you're going to find different numbers at different places, and you're going to get usually how true they are is you can tell by how far they vary. You know what I mean? Between one to another. But then there are other ones like that are just that as you look at math of how just from this room, how many people are here? Just how many people have been affected by your alcohol use? And you start thinking, now let's start thinking about my kids, now let's start thinking about my brothers and sisters and my parents, and that these other, you start doing some math and how many people has their drinking affected me that I'm not even related to necessarily, but and you just realize it's like knowing someone who has cancer or anything else like that, where it's just a matter of how close it is. It's not a matter of if, it's how close. And I think once you get people to understand that this isn't just an add-on ministry. People are living this every single day. And the other thing I would say is that in the middle of it is the application of a law and gospel message. It's not that you preach on this. This is an application of the message that is one that is going to
resonate and affect the lives of people every day. And so that's the thing is my encouragement would be, this is a drip message. And dripping in the sense that not that you use it, you don't drown people in it, but yet that it's there, that you realize this is just another reminder. And with that dripping, it might be the day and the time where the person is like, you know what, today is the day. And that part of it is just very helpful of keeping it in front of people. So I appreciate the work that you guys do, because those ministries then allow me from a pulpit to the people that are there to say, there's a place for you to get help immediately. I'm sorry, I don't want to take, so one other thing that I think that I want to mention is, we noticed in 2017 to 2018, we keep track of first-time adults who visit individually, and we track them. And between 2017 and 2018, our first-time guests went up over 110 people. So it went from about 400 average to about 520-ish in that neighborhood. And that led us to say, what are we doing differently? Let's take a look at this. All 100 were from recovery homes, because there was a place for them at Crosswalk to get help. And it was a place where they knew there was a place for them, where as they were going through this struggle with Christ, that it was something they were getting besides their group home or the therapy they were going through. So it's just this outreach opportunity as well to reach people who need that help.
Awesome. So we got about 15 minutes before lunch starts, but I want to ask Jimmy to say a few words. He's the person who started the first ever Celebrate Recovery ministry on an Indian reservation, if I understand correctly. Yeah.
Well, probably the second, but the one that's been growing a lot.
But the best one.
That's right. I was going to say with what these guys were talking about, having the ladies' road in the church. Open Bible Lutheran Church in Wyver has the longest ladies' aid group that meets every Monday. Now they moved to Tuesday, but the ladies' aid group are really active in our church, and compared to the men supporting our church, it's the church council group that are doing a lot of this, but they're still in the background. I'm also a council member of the church, where I started just as a member of the council and got moved up to vice president of the church, and the fear to move one more step up is shaking deep inside to be the president of the church. But at the beginning, the ladies have really did a lot for our church to have Celebrate Recovery keep going and going through the feeding program, the feeding of the people that come there. And they're like the backbone for them to be at a place on a Friday night to help give support to the community that comes there. And a lot of our participants there are those people. And I remind them that those people, I'm one of you. I'm one of those people that come to this program. I use the analogy from what's that commercial where it says, I'm not just the hair representative, I am also the company owner, you know?
Yeah.
I am Celebrate Recovery in Wyver, but I am still like you. So I invite them to make them feel comfortable and accepted to be there. We have a lot of ladies that come there, and people, like I said, mentioned to me when I hear that people from the streets come up there. And I have a story of a couple who came there a few years ago, about 5 years ago, that said they're homeless. So I used a homeless story. And I said, a girl came to me one time and said, I'm homeless. And I said, okay, you're homeless. You're asking for money and standing in front of the stores and taking a change to go buy a drink and all this stuff. So where do you go to shower? Where do you go to change your clothes? My mom's house. Okay, go home. You're not homeless. A year later, I ran into them by the post office. Him and her boyfriend. her boyfriend says, I'm back at my mom's house, gaining the trust back. She says, I'm back at my mom's house. We only meet each other right here, right now in town. But I'm back at my mom's house. So there's a victory there, right?
Yeah,
Amen.
And yet they're still consuming the alcohol. But I'm glad that they're home and they were looking well fed again. And there's all these victories that come through our program that these people here, they come to the program because they found a place where they feel comfortable. A safe environment on a Friday night when temptation is high, like Payday's here, or the neighbors are partying and it's enticing, the music over there. There's all these things that have changed through on our reservation, and I think the ladies that do what they do for our program. My aunt, I have a lot of family involved in there. My mother here was the first one to help start cooking for the program. She really took grasp of it, and we were paying out of pocket for this program. I mean, my pay and her monthly checks were paying about $50 a week for meals for like 3 years, and then God sent us a pastor from Milwaukee or one of those six-pack countries. Sent us a Milwaukee's best, you know.
Oh, that's a bumper sticker.
But they saw what we were doing. They were moved by what this tribe was doing. They were caring for their people and sharing the enthusiasm of an addict who changed his life and started following in his path again. And Mama's prayers of 25 years of hoping that this kid would grow up at 35. I became a man at 40 years old and changed his ways. And in those times, we've been blessed to get all the support from Crosswalk. Now we're able to provide a well meal for everybody on Fridays, able to have a van bring us down to this program. It's just an awesome movement that Celebrate Recovery came into our program. And we do have a large group. We worship, we gather and share a meal. We break our groups up into two, where the men and ladies share separately because the men cannot deal with a women's issue.
Not strong enough.
And we cannot deal with ladies' issues. But it's an opportunity for them to share separately, and I think I mentioned yesterday, it's an opportunity also where we keep everything separate so that we can deal with our issues on a man's plane and ladies can deal with their part. But it's just a wonderful thing that's happened for us up there on the mountain, and to be reaching out into all these other areas. I was surprised that a lady came home from prison who was sent away for years and came home and said, I saw a name on the computer, and I was looking at, we did Celebrate Recovery in prison, she says. And she was looking down, where can I find one in Arizona? The closest ones were in Tucson and Phoenix, but then she looked up a little lower and said, there's one in my hometown.
Praise God.
The first Apache Nation, first Native Nations Celebrate Recovery on the Wet Mountain Apache Reservation run by Jimmy Cassador. And she said, I just, in the jail cell, in the library of the prison, said, I know that guy! And she came home and she told me that story, and I was like, wow. I went to a couple of Celebrate Recovery retreats, summits, and we were the focal point, the White Mountain Apache tribe, where we were just like bombarded by these people, and some of these people were there with us. Brenda was there with us 1 year. Timmy came down. Bernard was there, and it's just the outpouring of the support from across the country, and and even making it to was it ELC with Jason 3-4 years ago in Orlando. That's the farthest I flew and my arms were tired.
Oh yeah, it was Christ lead.
To tell you how nervous I was before we got on the plane. It's the farthest I've gone, but the encouragement for yes, the women, we have a lot of outlets for you guys to help be encouraged to help our congregations. And one of the things that we've implemented at Wyver is the pastors are in the background of what we're doing. Hand it to someone in your congregation that you find that is a light for those in recovery. When they chose me, I said no, like Moses, pick someone else. I wasn't capable to do this program. I said, I'm a problem. I'm broken. I'm not the one they need. And they said, well, I don't have these fancy letters behind my name or a doctorate or whatever, you know. And I said, I'm a drunk. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a person who lives in sinful relationships. I've hurt people that hurt me. I've broken into people's house. I cheated my mom's credit card. She's getting paid back, right? I've done many things in my life that are so terrible that I feel that I shouldn't be standing here, like I mentioned a while over here, when I laid on that road. And also taking those pills. But when he said they don't want to die, after those pills were taken, where was I standing at mom's door? I went to go, that was a tear of cry for help. But, okay, get back on track.
You're great.
As we were going along, I made that commitment to do what I was doing, as I was getting here. When they asked, I said all my problems to them, and they said, well, I think you just gave us your resume. You've been out on the field for 25 years of your life.
Yeah.
Your experience.
Yes,
Yep.
I have the experience to do what I'm doing. We chose the right person. And it was a tough battle. After I got off the road and found my way back to my home, I can relate to the prodigal son. Where I was waiting in the middle of the early morning, my mom pulled up with my grandmother. The anger came back. I'm going to tell her off because she never came to pick me up in jail. As I walked up to the car, she opened the door, and a little boy in me came home. I fell on my knees, and I cried to her. And she cried to me, and my grandmother's holding my mom's shoulders, crying. And she said, get in. There was a feast in the back of the car, a little Toyota, you know. There were pillows, blankets, 2 thermoses of coffee and tea, and a big 1 gallon, not whiskey, 1 gallon of soda. And a rotisserie and just snacks and stuff right there. Mom.
And a robe and a ring. And
for her son. The good part, the awesome part. Sunday morning, a week later, I got early, took a shower, got ready, knocked on mom's door. She opens it. I said, I'm ready. No, she looked at me up and down. I'm dressed to go out, you know, but and she says, "What? Where are you going now?" It's early. I'm going to church with you, Mom. It's only 4 o'clock. Church don't start in another 4 hours. But we cried for an hour. That was 11 years ago. And we've only missed church for about 5 Sundays within that time, and then with her diabetes, we've been missing a couple. But we go to church wherever we can. But to get yourself started, look for someone in your congregation who is in need or who is wanting to recover. Yeah. Someone who has the fire that is struggling, but encourage them. Be a supportive pastor. Be a supportive congregation. If I didn't have those guys like these who are here with me right now, they're here because they're supporting me and I'm encouraging them. But for all of us here, let's look at everyone's heart, not what's outside. And I think that's what they told me at CR last week. A couple, they smelled terrible, but they said, you didn't put us down here. You helped us stand up. And I said, we're gonna keep coming back. So I'll see you next Friday then. But now we're here last night.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, yeah.